WWE's Survivor Series has come and gone, and boy was it, well, something. We all got to see the last monster heel WWE has fall in seconds for no reason whatsoever. Good old Brock Lobster was a monster in WWE, and while he may have been only a part-time worker, his presence was always felt throughout both Raw and SmackDown brands. With a loss to a very 50-year-old Goldberg, WWE has made it clear that Lesnar is no longer a threat, and that Goldberg can retire a far richer man than he already is. We also learn that Goldberg's kid hates shirts, just like his daddy. Now that Brock, less than able to beat Goldberg, has lost his monster luster, we can look back at a few wrestlers that are far better than the big man. But just how did we work this list out, you ask accusingly through your monitors? Well, since the match was so stupidly short and lacking any offense, we looked at the matches in which Goldberg competed in, and his opponents lasted longer than Brock Lesnar did against a retired Goldberg. And with that, here is our list of 10 wrestlers better than Brock Lesnar. Number 10. Disco Inferno. If you don't know the former WCW wrestler known as Disco Inferno, consider yourself lucky, although admittedly, I was a pretty big fan in my youth. A gimmick wrestler with a terrible gimmick, Disco Inferno made no sense during the days of the NWO at WCW, and even less so when he joined the old Red and Black. He was a former disco dancer, or something like that, and danced his way to the ring where he would promptly lose. While technically not a jobber, he held the WCW Cruiserweight Championship, was one half of the WCW World Tag Team Champions along with Alex Wright, and was also a two-time WCW Television Champion. Odds are, if he was coming to the ring, it was to take a loss to get someone over. Enter Bill Goldberg. Goldberg did beat the snot out of Disco Inferno, but that's not the point. The point lies in the fact that Mr. Inferno lasted a few minutes in the ring and even managed to get some offense in against Goldberg, something that Lesnar could not do, making Disco Inferno a better wrestler than Brock Lesnar. Number 9. The Giant / The Big Show. The NWO was always a thorn in Goldberg's, and presumably anyone looking for a break, side in WCW. Giant Show managed to put up probably one of the best fights against Goldberg because of his size and legitimate power. At the time, Giant was some sort of champion. I want to say a TV title, maybe one of the tag teams. It's been a long time. So this was a title versus title match on regular television, because WCW liked to throw money away. Goldberg was a man that would beat you in less time in the ring than it took him to get to the ring. Shades of Survivor Series right there. But this night was a little different, and the Giant put up one heck of a fight that was quite respectable in its own right. Oh, and this was a no DQ match at that. Yes, even the Giant fell at the hands of Goldberg, but only after a little help from DDP, someone who's going to show up a few more times in this list. All that said, Goldberg did manage to pick up the Giant for a pretty big slam. But that said, the Giant lasted far longer than Brock Lesnar did, making him a more capable wrestler. Number 8. Raven. Raven was an interesting character that I couldn't really stand when I was a wee boy. He seemed to be trying far too hard, but as I look back on it, I can see why people actually liked him. But in this altercation with Bob Billberg, he managed a few offensive pops, even managing to take Goldberg outside of the ring, even if Raven was the one that ended up through a table. After pulling the ref into the line of Goldberg's spear and having friends come out to help, Raven actually looked like he might be the one to end the streak. But DDP once again jumps in to even the odds and allow Goldberg to get the win. Sure, Raven may have lost, but at least he managed to pull off one of his finishers on Goldberg, something Brock Lesnar could not even come close to managing. So at the end of the day, this makes Raven a better wrestler than Brock Lesnar. Number 7. Stevie Ray. Poor Stevie Ray. You were great as one half of Harlem Heat, but never quite found the same success as a solo act like your brother Booker T did. Still, his place is important in the Goldberg machine at WCW as he managed to hold his own against the big man. Right as the match starts, Stevie Ray takes a few big shots before reversing a slam into a back body drop. This is important, not only because he got a move off, but because it was probably the first time on television that Goldberg was taken off his feet. Oh, and the match lasts far longer than the Brock Lesnar-Goldberg match won from Survivor Series did, by a considerable margin. Stevie Ray got his own Hogan build and put Goldberg down multiple times during the match. Lesnar couldn't even get a single move off. The great thing about this classic Goldberg is that he was a monster, but that he also had to work a bit to get the pin. All in all, this makes Stevie Ray a better wrestler than good old Brock Lobster. Number 6. Hugh Morris, Bill DeMott. Eternal asshat and general not nice man Bill DeMott was the first person to face Goldberg at WCW. The fight itself was a pretty lengthy one, far longer than Brock's again, and even Hugh Morris was able to land his moonsault finisher, the No Laughing Matter. Goldberg was still able to take control of the match, but it's impressive to see the man struggle with someone and not have the crowd completely behind him. Mr. Jelly Donut himself, Bill DeMott, wasn't able to win the day here, but he still far outlasted a weak-looking Brock Lesnar from Survivor Series. Oh, and he would later go on to torture a young Zack Ryder, so there's that in his favor. Number 5. The Barbarian. The Barbarian was a WCW staple for a good long while, so when he faced Goldberg, he put up quite the good show. The crowd wasn't yet completely with the man, but as this was only his second match, it did make sense. Still, Goldberg did show off a moveset that he would later trim down when he turned into the Giant Monster. The Barbarian laid some serious hands on the man, caught him in a mid-air reversal, and even landed a power slam on the future Hall of Famer. The Barbarian didn't last as long as Mr. Mungus, as a lot of time during this match was given to the ending segment trying to figure out who Goldberg was. Yes, the Barbarian may have lost, but at least he can rest knowing that he's a better wrestler than Brockster. Number 4. Bam Bigelow. Old Firehead is a legend that I feel never got his just rewards here in the States. Bam Bam could move and fly better than most men half of his size, but by the time he got to WCW, he was petering out. But he was still a lot of fun to watch. So when he called out Bill Goldberg for an impromptu match, it was an exciting thing indeed. Even if I personally did miss the show because it was on 9/9/99, and I was all over that Sega Dreamcast. The match itself started out Goldberg, but Bam Bam managed to get a few good moments. The best bit was Goldberg destroying Bam Bam with a dozen right hands while the ref was down. Then Bam Bam got his second wind and went nuts even after that attack. DDP once again came down to cause problems, but it wasn't enough as Bam Bam bites the bullet in the end. But at least he can rest easy knowing, looking down from above, that he's a better wrestler than Brock Lesnar. Number 3. Alec Skipper, Prime Time. It's completely okay if you don't know who Alec Skipper is. People at the time didn't even know who Alec Skipper was. I watched WCW almost religiously even before the Monday Night Wars, and I can't tell you one thing about Mr. Prime Time. As expected from a jobber, Goldberg destroys Skipper, but you have to remember that he at least got a couple of shots in on the big man who came up behind him. That's right, you guessed it, this makes him a much better wrestler than Brock Lesnar. And at least Skipper would go on to join TNA in the early days and do quite well for himself over there. Number 2. Steven Regal. This is an important match for a number of reasons. It was the first time on television that Goldberg had to really wrestle someone, and Regal cut the rookie no slack. Goldberg has said that this was a shoot, and that Regal was trying to put him in his place, while Regal says it was all a work, and that he didn't do anything in the Goldberg match that he wouldn't have done in any other match. Whatever the case may be in reality, it was one hell of a match that actually made Goldberg look stronger because he was actually forced to wrestle. Watching it again, I feel like siding on Goldberg on the whole shoot thing, but whatever the case may be, I think this is the best match Goldberg ever had early on in his career and showed that he could actually wrestle. Regal is one of my favorites of all time, so knowing that he's a far better wrestler than Brock Lobster makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. And number 1 on our list, Hulk Hogan. The man whose moveset includes a leg drop, that thing where he puts his hand to his ear, was the final test for the man known as Bill Goldberg. Can you believe that this money-making match was on an episode of Nitro? You can understand why WCW tanked so hard shortly after all of this went down. That said, Hogan put up quite the fight with the almost 8-minute run of the two going back and forth. You have the young, unstoppable rookie against the aging and much slower legend. While Hogan may have the moveset depth of an NES wrestling game, he sure did far more than Brock Lesnar ever did at Survivor Series. And that's our list for the 10 wrestlers better than Brock Lesnar. Or at least better than Brock Lesnar was at Survivor Series. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you'd like to find out more about Gambit Digital, head over to our website at gambitmag.com or find us on Facebook/Gambit Magazine. If you have any ideas for another list, leave them in the comments below. And I am George. It's been a pleasure. You can find me on Twitter @_ShadowGallery. And until next time, you guys have a good one.